Like the member Grant Robertson, I was also in attendance at the 21st birthday of New Zealand on air last night, and it was indeed a celebration of New Zealand music, video and other media. And as Mr Robertson rightly points out, our radio content has increased from about 2% 21 years ago to over 20% now, and that is a huge success. What he didn't mention, but what the Chief Executive last night referred to, was the fact that New Zealand on air and the products that are produced are very much online. And so if, as the member Ms Katini refers to, the vinyl and the illegal, say, copying onto cassettes was the way in which our generation did that, I would suggest that that's the sort of the hand grenade into the copyright law. What the internet does is provide a nuclear explosion, such as the difference in scale and the opportunities to be able to illegally copyright. So the question, I guess, is whether or not Section 92A was the nuclear deterrent. And one of the features of this House, I think, is the fact that the opposition has fiercely defended almost all of the legislation that it's passed in the 9-year term of office, with a couple of glaring exceptions. I think the Electoral Finance Act was an example of some mea culpa, and in particular David Parker, who acknowledges that that wasn't their finest moment. And I think this is another example of that. And I think credit is due to Claire Curran for bringing this to the attention on behalf of her party, albeit in the face, I think, of a wave of opposition that every member of this House received. And it didn't start just at the election. I think it was very clear that Section 92A wasn't going to work in the way that it was intended. It's a shame that the opposition, when they were in government, didn't listen a little more carefully to submitters on that point. In fact, the architect of this bill, Judith Tizard, is on record as saying that Section 92A was deliberately vague. Well, I would suggest, sir, that vague law makes bad law. And in fact, it wasn't that vague. Those people who were going to be affected of it knew exactly how it was going to affect them. Ms Curran also mentioned something that I must pick up on in her first reading call today. She continued the Labour Party's long-standing habit of kicking the victim. That somehow, because large media organisations are large, then the harm done to them is somehow mitigated. And she accused them of working, I think she said, to an outdated business model. Well, I simply reject that. And hang on, if this business model was so outdated, why is it affecting those large media organisations more than anybody else? Now, I want to just touch on what Mr Hughes said about the education benefit being lost by the punitive nature of a $15,000 fine. I respectfully disagree with that. I think Mr Robertson's commented on this as well, and there are three reasons. Firstly, there's a plethora of information out there about video and DVD piracy and internet piracy. I don't think it's acceptable now for those internet users to say they did not know what they were doing was wrong. And the second aspect of that is that in the absence of some form of sanction, internet and DVD piracy messages will simply fall on deaf ears. And the third reason is that the three strikes process that Ms Cartini refers to disparagingly is not actually three strikes, it's three notices. And it's designed to educate the public about illegal file sharing, and I think provides effective methods for copyright owners to enforce their copyright. They're given adequate warnings. And if in the face of that, the people who could be doing this ignore those warnings, then the punishments need to be severe. They are certainly hurting our entertainment industry and those fantastic young artists who are developing their product with the assistance of government in New Zealand on air. And for that reason, I strongly support this going to Select Committee. I realise there are some questions that have been raised, and that's an appropriate place within which they should be heard. Thank you.
There being no further calls, the question is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. The contrary, no. The ayes have it.
Copyright Infringing File Sharing Amendment Bill, first reading.
Speaker.
Honourable Nathan Guy.
I move that the Copyright Infringing File Sharing Amendment Bill be considered by the Commerce Committee.
Question is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no. The ayes have it. Call Government Order of the Day number